Welcome back to the Chanel USD Coins coin collectors and curious minds. If you're someone who loves diving into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the stories that make certain pieces worth millions, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to explore one of the most astonishing and intriguing coins in American history, the 1967 Liberty Quarter Dollar. You may have a quarter lying around at home or jangling in your car's cup holder, but imagine if one of those coins was actually worth $4.2 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 25-cent piece potentially worth over $4 million. What makes this particular coin so special? Why is it that this humble piece of currency, produced during a time when quarters were still made of base metals and mass-produced by the hundreds of millions, could possibly carry such astronomical value? The answer lies in its errors, its minting anomalies, the peculiarities of its production, and the historical context in which it was born. Let's start by putting ourselves in the year 1967. America was in the midst of social and political transformation. The Vietnam War was raging, civil rights movements were in full swing, and the country was bracing itself for both cultural and economic shifts. In the realm of currency, the U.S. Mint had just gone through a major overhaul. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, silver had been removed from circulating dimes and quarters due to rising silver prices and a coin shortage. This transition from silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition marked a new era in American coinage. The 1967 quarter was part of this transition, and it was minted without a mint mark due to a policy intended to discourage coin hoarding. However, despite the lack of a mint mark, something unexpected happened. A handful of these quarters came off the press with glaring mistakes that would turn ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. When it comes to rare coins, what makes them valuable often isn't their age or their original metal content, but rather the presence of mistakes, the kinds of flaws that slip through the cracks in the quality control process. The 1967 Liberty Quarter is a shining example of this. Now, normally, coins with mint errors aren't supposed to make it out of the mint. But in certain rare instances, mistakes are missed. These mistakes can range from off-center strikes to double dies, planchet errors, missing elements, or even coins being struck on the wrong metal planchet entirely. In the case of the 1967 Liberty Quarter Dollar, several key types of errors have been identified by experts and collectors alike, and these are the very mistakes that have caused select coins to be valued in the millions. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die. A double die occurs during the hubbing process when the die receives multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned. This creates a doubled appearance in the coin's design elements, such as the date, the word Liberty, or "In God We Trust." On the 1967 quarter, known double die obverse examples display noticeable doubling on the date and the lettering. If you ever come across a 1967 quarter and see this kind of doubling, you might just be holding onto a life-changing piece of metal. Another notorious error involves the coin being struck on a silver planchet. Now remember, by 1967, the U.S. Mint had already removed silver from circulating quarters. But in very rare cases, leftover silver planchets from previous years accidentally made their way into the coining presses. This is what's known as a transitional error. A 1967 quarter struck on a silver planchet is an incredibly rare find and can fetch staggering sums at auction. Not only would such a coin weigh slightly more than a standard copper-nickel-clad quarter, but it would also sound different when dropped. Silver coins have a distinctive ring. There's also the infamous wrong planchet error. This is when a quarter is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, like a nickel or a foreign coin. Such coins are generally lighter or smaller than they should be, and the details of the design might be partially missing or distorted. These wrong planchet errors are particularly exciting because they highlight a moment of true human or mechanical error inside the U.S. Mint, a moment where something went against the system, creating a unique artifact of history. Let's not forget about off-center strikes. An off-center strike happens when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned within the coin press, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing, and a blank crescent appears on one side. Depending on the degree of the off-center strike and whether key features like the date are still visible, these coins can be extremely valuable. In the 1967 quarter, off-center strikes of 50% or more, especially if the date is still readable, are among the most desirable to collectors. Then we have die cap errors, which are dramatic and visually stunning mistakes that occur when a coin gets stuck to a die and continues to strike additional blanks. Over time, the stuck coin acts like a second die, creating a distorted, domed effect. Die cap errors are rare across all denominations, but on a 1967 quarter, such an error is almost unheard of, making it exceedingly rare and highly collectible. Clipped planchets are another mistake worth mentioning. This error happens when the metal strip used to punch coin blanks shifts during the punching process, resulting in blanks with missing pieces. A 1967 quarter with a clean, crescent-shaped clip is a striking sight and can significantly raise the coin's value, especially if combined with other errors. What also adds value to the 1967 Liberty quarter is the general context of its production. Due to the coin shortage of the 1960s, the U.S. Mint ramped up production massively. In 1967 alone, over 1.5 billion quarters were struck, primarily at the Philadelphia Mint. However, to discourage hoarding and speculation, the Mint decided to omit mint marks from all coins in 1965, 1966, and 1967. This decision makes identifying the origin of these coins more difficult but also adds an air of mystery to the ones that contain unusual errors. If a 1967 quarter turns up with a mint mark, say, AD for Denver or an S for San Francisco, it would be a major anomaly and could be considered a minting mistake or even a test strike, both of which are incredibly rare and valuable. Let's talk about condition and grading. As with all rare coins, the state of preservation can have a dramatic impact on value. A 1967 quarter with a common error might be worth a few $100s in circulated condition, but if that same coin is graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC as being in mint state 65 or higher, the value can skyrocket into the thousands or more. Now imagine a 1967 quarter with multiple errors, say, a double die, struck on a silver planchet, and in mint condition. That's the kind of coin that could easily hit the $1 million mark at auction. And if it's the only known specimen of its kind? That's where you start to see those record-breaking prices, like $4.20 million. Now, some of you may be wondering, how is it possible for a coin like this to go unnoticed for so long? The answer lies in circulation. Many of these rare error coins are discovered years, sometimes decades after they were minted. They end up in private collections, piggy banks, yard sales, or even loose change in a coffee shop cash register. In fact, some of the most valuable coins in history were found by ordinary people just paying attention. That's why collectors always say, check your change. One confirmed case involved a collector who noticed a strange coloration and weight difference in a 1967 quarter they had picked up at a flea market. After testing and expert authentication, the coin was revealed to be struck on a 90% silver planchet, a leftover from 1964 production. That coin sold for a high six-figure sum. Another story tells of a young numismatist who discovered a double-die 1967 quarter while going through rolls of coins from a local bank. With proper grading and verification, that coin entered the auction market and fetched over $300,000. So how does one know if they have a rare 1967 quarter? First, examine it closely under good lighting. Look for doubling in the lettering or date. Check the edge of the coin. A copper nickel-clad coin will have a distinctive copper stripe along the edge, whereas a silver coin will not. Weigh the coin if you have a precise scale. A normal 1967 quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, while a silver planchet would weigh 6.25 grams. Use a magnet to see if there's any reaction. None of these coins should be magnetic. And finally, if you think you have something truly special, send it to a professional grading service for evaluation. The 1967 Liberty quarter dollar, despite being a common coin in appearance, represents an extraordinary opportunity for collectors, treasure hunters, and casual hobbyists. It's a coin born during a pivotal moment in American history, caught between the eras of silver and clad coinage, and riddled with potential minting mistakes that now turn a 25-cent piece into a $1 million treasure. It teaches us that even in a time of mass production, anomalies can exist. And it proves that sometimes, the most valuable things are hiding in plain sight. Whether you're an experienced collector or someone who's just beginning to explore the world of coins, keep your eyes open. You never know when history, error, and fortune might collide in the palm of your hand. Keep checking your change, searching through rolls, and learning about the rich and unpredictable world of numismatics. Because who knows, your next quarter could be worth a whole lot more than 25 cents. It might just be worth $4.20 million. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the whirl. Today's deep dive, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and unexpectedly valuable coins ever to come out of the United States Mint. Get ready, because we're about to talk about the 1968 Liberty Quarter Dollar, a coin that looks just like any other pocket change, yet in rare cases, has fetched values as high as $3.8 million due to specific minting errors, historical context, and some truly remarkable production anomalies. So if you've ever wondered whether there could be a fortune hiding in your change jar or coin collection, this is the video you don't want to miss. Let's get into the heart of it. The story behind the 1968 Liberty Quarter Dollar begins in a time of transition for U.S. coinage. Just 3 years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint stopped producing quarters made of 90% silver. Instead, a copper-nickel-clad composition was introduced, drastically changing the intrinsic value of American coins. This shift also ushered in an era of complex minting processes that occasionally led to rare and extremely valuable minting errors. While millions of 1968 quarters were struck and circulated, only a small number exhibit the kinds of mistakes and features that make collectors and numismatists go wild. And that's where the mystery, and the millions, begin. Now, before we examine the high-stakes value tied to these unique coins, it's important to understand what a standard 1968 quarter looks like. The obverse features the profile of George Washington, facing left, with the word Liberty above his head and the year 1968 below. The motto, "In God We Trust," is etched to the left of Washington's profile. On the reverse side, there's the familiar image of a bald eagle with outstretched wings perched atop a bundle of arrows, with olive branches below, symbolizing America's strength and readiness for peace. Above the eagle, you'll find the inscription, United States of America, and just below that, the motto, E pluribus unum. The bottom rim reads, Quarter Dollar. So far, so ordinary, right? But this is where things get exciting. While millions of these coins were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, a rare few have unusual features that make them incredibly valuable. To truly understand how a coin like this could reach a jaw-dropping $3.8 million valuation, we need to break down the types of minting errors that transform a 25-cent piece into a numismatic legend. One of the most sought-after minting anomalies is the absence or misplacement of the mint mark. The 1968 quarter was the first year since 1964 that the Philadelphia Mint resumed using no mint mark, while the Denver and San Francisco mints used a D and S respectively. However, due to inconsistencies in production, a number of coins either have mint marks that were double-struck, misaligned, or even completely missing when they shouldn't be. The rarest of these are San Francisco proof coins that appear to have no mint mark at all, an impossibility under standard minting procedures. These missing mint mark coins have been confirmed and verified by major grading services like PCGS and NGC, and some have sold for extraordinary sums because they defy expectations. What makes this error even more captivating is that proof coins, which are specially struck using polished dies for collectors, should never lack a mint mark. If a 1968 S-proof quarter appears without the S, this strongly suggests a die preparation or striking error of monumental proportions. These are not errors that happen in the thousands or even hundreds. They're often limited to just a handful of specimens, if not fewer. And this extreme rarity is what drives collectors into fierce bidding wars, with some of these no-mint mark 1968 quarters commanding prices well into the millions. Another type of minting error that can increase a 1968 quarter's value involves double dies. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin is engraved twice in slightly different positions. This results in noticeable doubling of the design elements, especially around the date, lettering, or Washington's profile. For example, on some 1968 quarters, you might see the date appear almost ghosted or shadowed, with a faint second outline of the numbers. Or the word Liberty might look like it's printed twice slightly off-kilter. These errors are incredibly popular among collectors because they are easy to identify with the naked eye and reflect a technical flaw in the minting process that should never occur under normal circumstances. Then we have off-center strikes, another valuable error type. These happen when a coin is not properly aligned within the press during striking. The result is a quarter that may appear slightly or dramatically off balance, with parts of the design missing or pushed to one side. While common off-center errors may fetch modest premiums, those that are severely off-center, while still showing the full date, can be extremely rare and highly desirable. An off-center 1968 quarter with 50% misalignment and a visible full date might be valued in the tens of thousands, depending on its condition. Yet another key error found in some 1968 Liberty quarters is the wrong planchet error. This occurs when a quarter is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a nickel, penny, or even a foreign coin. The result is a wildly unusual-looking coin that may be underweight, off-colored, or oddly sized. These errors are not only rare but fascinating to examine, and collectors pay top dollar for these intriguing mistakes. In addition to these striking errors, die cracks, cuds, and die breaks can also add significant value to a 1968 quarter. A die crack appears when the die itself begins to fracture, leaving behind raised lines or distorted areas on the coin's surface. A cud, on the other hand, happens when part of the die breaks off completely, resulting in a raised, unstruck blob of metal on the coin. Both of these errors are often prized by collectors because they represent the literal breakdown of the minting machinery, a glimpse into a fleeting moment where a coin was born with a unique flaw. What amplifies the importance and value of these error coins is their condition. The grading scale used by professional services ranges from poor, P1, to mint state, MS70. Coins that feature rare errors and are in high grades, especially MS65 and above, are considerably more valuable than lower-grade specimens. A 1968 quarter with a dramatic error, such as a missing mint mark or double die, and graded MS67 or MS68 by PCGS could easily push into 6- or 7-figure territory. Add in historical significance, visual appeal, and collector demand, and you've got the perfect storm for a coin worth millions. One confirmed sale that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community involved a 1968 S-proof quarter missing its mint mark, authenticated and graded by a top-tier grading service. This coin was part of a private auction and ended up selling for an astounding $3.8 million. The combination of pristine condition, undeniable rarity, and collector frenzy turned what should have been a standard proof coin into one of the most valuable U.S. quarters in existence. Now, let's talk possibilities. How does a coin like this end up with such rare errors? One explanation lies in human error. Mint employees are tasked with preparing dies, applying mint marks, and ensuring that all equipment is functioning correctly. Even a single lapse in judgment, a die that wasn't properly punched, a mint mark omitted during engraving, or a blank planchet that slipped into the wrong coining press, can result in a coin with significant deviations from the intended design. In most cases, these flawed coins are caught and destroyed. But sometimes, they slip through quality control and enter circulation, or are included in collector-proof sets by mistake. There's also the potential that some of these coins were intentionally produced and released by mint insiders, particularly during periods of loose oversight. While such actions are illegal and unethical, history shows that it has happened. This adds an extra layer of intrigue and controversy to rare error coins, raising their profile and their price. Collectors should also be aware that the value of these rare 1968 quarters is heavily dependent on authentication. Counterfeits and altered coins are unfortunately common in the numismatic world. That's why it's critical to have any coin you believe to be rare or valuable graded and certified by a reputable third-party service like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC. These organizations will verify the coin's authenticity, assign it a grade, and encapsulate it in tamper-proof packaging with a certificate of authenticity. If you're holding a 1968 quarter and wondering whether you've struck gold, here are a few steps you can take. First, inspect the coin under a good light with a magnifying glass or loupe. Look for anomalies like doubled lettering, missing mint marks, off-center designs, or unusual coloration or thickness. Compare your coin to known images of error examples. If you spot anything unusual, it may be worth submitting it for professional grading and appraisal. Now, let's consider the broader implications of coins like the 1968 Liberty Quarter Dollar. Their stories inspire new generations of collectors, historians, and hobbyists to look closer at the coins in their pockets. They represent not just monetary value, but a snapshot of American minting history, reflecting technological flaws, human ingenuity, and the thrill of discovery. Each rare coin is like a time capsule, a piece of the past preserved in metal, waiting to be recognized for its hidden worth. In the world of coin collecting, it's stories like that of the 1968 quarter that keep the excitement alive. Whether